Good morning, everybody. This is Joy Worland from the Department of Libraries, and this morning's session is Lightning Talks from ALA Midwinter. We are hosting talks from 3 librarians that attended ALA Midwinter this year with LSTA funding administered by the Department of Libraries. So we've asked them to share reflections on their experience attending the conference, highlights of a specific session or two, or plans they have to implement something they've learned, or just thoughts about the general overall experience of attending a national online conference. So we have with us this morning Ada DeRosier from Highgate Library and Community Center, Mariah Lawrence from the Tunbridge Public Library, and Margaret Woodruff from Charlotte Public Library. So welcome. I'm excited to hear from all of you, and we will start with Ada.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna do a bit of a screen share. All right, hopefully everybody can see presentation. Let me know if you can't see it.
Yes, we see it. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So for my Midwinter Conference Lightning Talk, I kind of wanted to give an overview of a couple of the sessions that I attended and my thoughts on them and what I took away from it. The first session that I attended was the Small and Rural Libraries, a Candid Discussion. And really, it was just discussing ways to support your community during the pandemic. So we discussed offering online and virtual programs, circulating hotspots to the community if your community does not have a great internet connection or connectivity, offering 24/7 Wi-Fi at your library. So even when the library is closed, making sure that you're offering Wi-Fi to your community, they can come and sit in the parking lot and connect. One idea that came up that I thought was really interesting was just having phone chats with people who just need somebody to talk to. Maybe they live alone, they're not really able to talk to anybody because of the pandemic and they're kind of afraid to leave their house. So just offering a way for somebody to connect to somebody else, to a library staff member. Another idea was to do a new book unboxing on Facebook Live. A lot of libraries are closed right now, so that's a great way to show people what new materials are coming into the library when they can't physically come through the door. And it's just kind of an exciting unboxing moment for everybody to see what you've got going on there. Promoting virtual library card signups. Another great idea was supporting local businesses, so businesses within your community, and you can do that through purchasing prizes from them or working on a joint virtual program together, or once the pandemic's over, doing a joint program in person together. Doing book drawings or raffles for patrons to win different items. You can do that based on how many books they've read or really come up with any sort of drawing entry process for that. One librarian also mentioned partnering with the post office to hand out items to the customers in the community, and I thought that was a great way to connect with patrons that maybe have never come into the library before, or they are library patrons but they don't really come in that frequently. Another aspect that was discussed was virtual burnout. So running a ton of virtual online programs, and just understanding that you can't do it all. You have to give yourself grace during this period, and that some programs are just not going to commute to the virtual realm. Try as hard as you may, they might just not work in the virtual space. Basically just understanding that it's okay if it doesn't necessarily work out, or it's okay if you don't have a huge attendance list, or if nobody attends a program, just try something else. So that was the first session that I attended. The second one that I really, really loved, which was actually, I believe, on the last day of the conference, was virtual gaming at the library. This is something that I have tried to implement at the library so far via Zoom, and I haven't had great success with it. So I was really excited to attend this particular session. They discussed video gaming programs, so like virtual Magic the Gathering, Minecraft, or Roblox. We talked a little bit about Animal Crossing and how some librarians had created a library island through Animal Crossing to connect with their community, which was really fantastic. We discussed great websites for online video gaming like battle.net, using Steam for free PC games, and then also using YouTube if you want to put together a learn to play event at your library, and really using YouTube as a great resource for that. The other aspect of it, which was exciting to me, was discussing board games and taking board games into the virtual space. So virtual Dungeons and Dragons via the site D&D Beyond, board games or card games that you can transition over. So Blank Slate, Just Ones, Categories, the Emoji Game, which I'd never even heard of that game before, and then what platforms to use. So we discussed using Zoom, which was a major one, and then also Discord, which is like an online community, which I thought was kind of a cool idea. You can also, yes.
I'm sorry, this is Joy. Sorry to interrupt, but we're not seeing your slides when you change slides.
Ooh.
Oh, excellent.
There we go. Perfect.
So now we're on the small and rural. Okay. All right.
Virtual
thank you.
gaming. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks.
And then beyond that, talking about how some of these online gaming sites, they have some costs, which your library can choose whether or not you want to pay for that, but a lot of them are free, which is fabulous. We also talked about Tabletopia, which is another site for board games as well, and that's free online board games. We talked about current popular virtual games, so Trivia, the Emoji Game, Among Us, which I had actually never heard of before, is apparently really popular right now, and how important it is to stay current when you're looking at gaming, and basically kind of do your homework, do research on it ahead of time to see what is going to be something that's exciting in your community. I think beyond that, it's also understanding that what works for one person's community is not necessarily going to translate to your community, so it can be a lot of trial and error with that as well. We also discussed rules to live by for hosting virtual events. So one thing was when you're scheduling your programs, to aim for convenience. So picking a time that's going to work well for most people's schedules. So, picking a program time that might be after work or after school, if it's going to be a weekday program. Also understanding that you may potentially be working the weekend if you need to host an event, because that's just the time that's going to work best for everybody. Another rule to live by was to remove all play barriers, which was basically having to register for virtual gaming events, which I think is really important. I know with my own virtual programs, I have been asking people to sign up for them. I haven't just been giving out the Zoom link. So that was something that really got me thinking, it is a barrier. I'm from now on just going to include the Zoom link so anybody can join at any time and there's no pressure to sign up. And then the third rule to live by was having a moderator present at all times in the virtual space, making sure the moderator is an adult, hopefully library staff member or the director, just to have somebody there who's kind of controlling game flow and is there to answer any questions and make sure that things are working smoothly. Beyond that, I had some final thoughts on the conference. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the structure of it. I think that it flowed really well, the way that they had speakers interspersed with breakout discussions. One thing that I took away from it as well was how accessible it was to everybody. The price point was so much lower than attending a conference in person. And I think because of that, they really had great attendance numbers for this conference. I would love to see in the future more conferences made virtual even after the pandemic is behind us, because I think it does open it up to so many people in all different communities, small, rural, especially. Beyond that, I think that I really did get a lot out of the conference, even though it was virtual. And it was kind of nice being able to do it from the comfort of my own home, which was fabulous. And I think the greatest takeaway, the last speaker was Dr. Jill Biden, and it was a powerful a powerful session. She's a wonderful speaker, and it kind of reinvigorated my own love for my library and the work that I do. And I felt that a lot of other librarians in attendance really did feel the same way as well. So overall, it was fabulous, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ada. That was really inspiring to listen to. And I love how you are already applying it to things. You're thinking about how you can try some new things, but also how you can make improvements to things that you've already been doing. So that's really wonderful to see that and hear about it. And thank you so much for that. Jeanette, do you want to say something?
Yeah, do we get to ask questions now, or do you want me to hold that
Sure.
to the end?
No, that would be great. We have plenty of time. So
Ada, thank you so much for the insights. Really interesting for me to hear what you found interesting and to just pick up a few tidbits. I was interested to hear about the post office idea. Can you briefly talk about that a little bit more? I'm wondering if that's a paid service or if they're game to just include stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one librarian that was discussing that, it was specific to the holidays, and she had put together little like holiday gift packets, basically little gift bags, and she felt that she wasn't really able to reach all of the community just from the library. So she asked the post office if they would be willing to just give out these gift bags to the community each time somebody came in to purchase something or to mail something out. And I believe that they did it for free for the library. They just worked together. And that was something that I had never heard of before from any conference, any session I've ever attended. And I thought it was such a great idea.
Wow, yeah. And I can imagine that a lot of the small post offices, you know, we all know the people that work there. I can imagine that they would probably be up for doing that as well. So that caught my attention. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That is a terrific idea. I think there's I felt like when I worked in a small library, there was such a bond between the post office and the library, actually, because that was like pre-courier. So like I was there a lot, and they were all patrons at the library. So that's a great connection that I never would have thought of. Okay, so Mariah, again, when you share your screen, if you can just share the window rather than just the presentation.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I don't know if it does, but tell me if I'm doing it. Let's see. Is it on?
We can see. Yes, we can see. So we'll go with that.
Yeah. You really can see it? I'm doing it okay?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. I really can. Yes. And I'll let you know. Actually, you want to try changing to the next slide right now so I don't have to interrupt you if it's not working?
Oh, okay.
Just as a practice.
Yeah, there we go. That's all right. The first slide, can you see it?
I see the first slide, yes.
Oh, but you don't see the second slide? Like, here's the first. Here's the second. No?
No.
Okay, there we go.
I'll just leave it on this one then.
Okay.
I don't have to go to the full screen. Well, first of all, Ada, you actually really inspired me. I want to go and watch that virtual gaming one. And I think that I've started with the list of all of the speakers that I listened to, and I thought that was actually one of the highlights of the conference for me is there was a really like an A team of speakers. I couldn't believe how spectacular they all were. And I mean, the fact that Jill Biden, right after she was that Joe Biden was inaugurated, and then Cicely Tyson, I mean, right before she passed away, I just thought, how lucky are we? And that was really spectacular. And listening to all of them, the number one thing that I kept thinking was how collaboration and partnership were so important to all of these projects that everyone was working on. Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blaine were the first people that I listened to, and that was unbelievable. I mean, this book, I'm not sure if you all have heard of it, 400 Souls, that they were promoting. It was written by 90 different authors, and I just can't imagine the type of collaboration that took to make something like that work. And listening to you speak, Ada, made me realize like the type of partnerships and collaborations that we can do within our own communities, because gaming sounds like something you're really good at. And I talk with some of the librarians around here at Chelsea and South Royalton, and we often think about how can we utilize each other's skills, especially, using this virtual platforms for everything. It would be easy enough to promote things for each other and to get the most patrons, because as we all know, or at least for me here in Tunbridge, getting people to participate is one of the most challenging parts of the job, and we do have to get really creative. And I love the post office idea. I think that, like, the library is right across the street from the post office here, and I can't wait to run down and do that right away. So Ziggy Marley was really fun to listen to. I couldn't believe that that was an option, and his books are so spectacular, and he sang his children's books, and that was really just a beautiful little break. It was nice, and I put his book on our list of books to order right away. I'm from Rhode Island, so listening to Jack Reed was really special. He's been a senator in Rhode Island for a very long time, and his passion for libraries was just, I was really impressed. I don't need to talk about each of these speakers, but I will say that Matt de la Pena and Christian Robinson, that was truly an amazing partnership that they had. The way that Christian Robinson illustrates books for Matt de la Pena, The Last Stop on Market Street is probably the most familiar one. And their newer books that are coming out are really beautiful. For example, Christian Robinson wrote a story, but he didn't want his words to be the final edit, because he like trusted Matt de la Pena, and the story that he was writing about was so personal. It was about his childhood experience with his father in prison, and he didn't want it to be about that. He wanted it to be that he happened to have a parent in prison, and the story of that surrounds that, and the way they trusted each other and worked together, having never met originally and then ending up touring together, was really inspiring to me. I really enjoyed that. I thought I would put together a list of books. I can send this to people, or you can screenshot it if you're seeing what I'm seeing. And just books that I was like, definitely need to order after listening to everything this weekend. I already, I'm sure that a lot of you put change things in your books to order. It comes out this fall, but they all looked really worth having, and that they would get some good circulation at the library. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there. Two of the sessions that I went to that were the most sort of game changers for me were Adam Grant and Harlan Coben talking about, Harlan Coben was interviewing Adam Grant basically about his new book, Think Again. And it really got me thinking about so many different ways that we learn. One of the first pieces of information that really stuck with me was that when you first start to learn something, anything at all, you're so excited that you know anything about this subject at all, and that your rate of knowledge is, you're rapidly learning about this, but your actual knowledge of the subject doesn't line up. And that oftentimes when we first learn about something, we sort of think we know more than we do. And I just thought that was, it's the age-old saying, the more you know, the less you know. And I thought that was really interesting, and a kind of an interesting way of looking at that. He keeps a running list of things that he knows nothing about. And I thought that was so funny and really cool, so that if someone were to say, oh, I was, doing some computer programming, and he would catch himself saying, oh, well, this is how you do that. And then realize, oh, wait, that's on my list of things that I know nothing about. I should probably do more listening than speaking at this point. And just, putting yourself out there in that way, just as a listener. And I thought that was really, really cool. I had never read any of his books, and I definitely plan on reading as many as I can. They look really cool. And then he was really honest and vulnerable, speaking about the fact that as a white man, he has had lots of positive affirmation and reinforcement in his life, allowing him to put himself out there and feel like he can make these, write a book and people of color and women haven't gotten this type of affirmation, and that's so important. That spoke to me for sure. And finally, I mean, I don't need to like summarize the whole thing, but the keeping a childlike curiosity about everything so that you're not ashamed that you don't know something, I thought was a really cool way of looking at it, so that we don't have to walk around, feeling like we need to sound smarter than we are, just to embody that childlike curiosity. And finally, he did this really, it was sort of awkward. He was interviewing, he was trying to do this motivational interviewing with Harlan Coben, and I don't think it went the way he planned on it going, because it was just super uncomfortable, but I can see what he was trying to get at. He was trying to get, if it's your idea, it's a good idea, right? You can't tell someone something. So he was just trying to get him to come to like think of this idea on his own rather than him, pushing it on him. But you'll have to watch that because maybe someone else thinks that's as strange as I did. Finally, I went to a lot of others, but the last one, the anti-racism and women in librarianship, Are We Prepared? It was very long, and I had to listen to it in chunks because, as with these big issues, it's, you have to take it in chunks because it's a lot to think about. And one of the number one things that I took from it, which makes me so grateful for opportunities like this, and everything that Joy and Jeanette put out there, is to educate yourself. It's a big, wide world, and we've got to keep up. One of the speakers said that, and I just thought, yep, we can't, once we get the job of our dreams or whatever it is, we can't just stop there. We have to just continuously work to stay on top of it, because essentially as librarians, we're information professionals, and we have to stay on top of that. So even when it makes us incredibly uncomfortable, it's really important to stay on top of that. And I love the empowerment piece to being a librarian when thinking about issues of race and identity, and who better than us than to be fully knowledgeable about these things and to be challenging ourselves, so that we can put out the best information for everyone. They really hit hard on self-reflection, and how we've contributed to issues of racism, how we are continuing to contribute to issues of racism, and just taking note of that, because that's really the first step in a lot of these situations. It made me think a lot about Vermont in general, and I did read, I think it was called Being Black in Vermont. Yes, it was by a professor at UVM who wrote about her experience in being Black in Vermont. And I just, we're not a very diverse state in some ways, and obviously, and, asking why and what we can do to make us a more rich culture was something I thought about a lot as I listened to this. Then they had these ideas for programming with children's programming, and not to shy away from issues of race and gender identity and all the hard topics, because what do kids love more than to help and to fix things? So they said, let's give them a shared vocabulary and a whole lifetime to help and work on these problems. And I do love that. And I love the innocence of children. I read Introducing Teddy this weekend. Maybe some of you are familiar with that book. To my story hour kids, and they just take it with a grain of salt. Teddy took his bow tie from his chest and wanted to wear it in his hair and wanted to be called Tilly. And it was just simple and easy, and kids, they don't even bat an eye. And so to give them this shared vocabulary and this just experience together, it's easy to do in this format. And then finally, we all know the John Lewis quote, never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. And I thought a lot about how sometimes it is scary in our small towns to really put forth some of these big pieces of information, because I know that while we're not diverse in race, we are diverse in our political backgrounds in some of these areas. And, you can walk on eggshells, but sometimes it's important to really make some noise, right? And so I took that from this experience. So I also want to say thank you so much. This was such a great experience. I plan on watching as many of these as I can over the coming weeks, and I just really loved the inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah. That was great. A lot of different topics you touched on, and I love also that you led with Mariah just went out of the meeting and is coming back. That you led with something that you had learned from Ada, which is terrific. So Margaret had asked, is the book you were referring to, or the reading, is it Black is the Body? Is it that book that?
Yes.
Isn't okay. Yeah, because
that's it. Black is the Body, the essays. Yeah, that was a good insight. Did you read that as well?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. I actually went to a book discussion of it with at the Worthen Library. Well, it was online, but yeah, and it was really good. It was a panel actually with Jason Broughton and Emily Bernard, and I can't remember the other person's name, but she's the Episcopal minister bishop, I mean, in Burlington, or I guess actually probably for all of Vermont. But yeah, it's an excellent book, and it was really eye-opening about being in Vermont, and what her experience has been like. And I did love the fact you had your other book list too, because I was starting to write down titles you were talking about, and then the next slide helped with that. So Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we move on to Margaret? All right. Well, it looks like you're on, Margaret. Okay. This is Margaret from the Charlotte.
I was going to share something. I did manage to take a few notes. We've had some problems with our heating system here at the library, and that has been a little bit distracting. So I may be a little bit scattered, and I apologize for that. I was going to try and share a couple slides, but I don't know how to do that. So maybe you just get Joy. I don't know.
So there's a toolbar in the toolbar.
Yeah, and then all I do is I get the window. Oh, wait, here we go. How about this? Sorry, I'm sorry for the
no problem.
delay.
I realized we should have had a dress rehearsal, but I didn't think.
I guess I wasn't aware of what the expectations were, and I should have asked you about that.
It's okay. I left the meeting right after mine, so it doesn't get much sillier than that.
All right, let me try again. Let's see how this works. Thank you all. Nothing like Vermont librarians for friendship and understanding. So here we go. So I'm going to go sort of in the order I watch things, and there is definitely some overlap with Mariah's and with Ada's. And I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity. And it is so rich, and I'm glad to have a chance to talk a little bit about it. But mostly I wish everybody could have been there, and I wish there was a way to share these talk, like the Adam Grant talk. That started my Friday. I listened to that one, and just the conversation with Harlan Coben was great. It was awkward, that interview thing. I agree with you, Mariah. But it was so empowering to hear someone talk about ideas, and the real takeaway for me was that it's okay to change your mind. And I feel like that's what libraries are all about, is providing that information. They both agreed that, it's considered such a virtue in this country to be like, I've always believed in this, and I'm going to believe in this till the day I die. And in fact, that's not, as you get more information, think about why that might change your perspective. So I thought that was really great. And I've read Givers and Takers, and I think it's an awesome book, especially if you're having to do like a director and you have staff that work for you and with you. So I really liked the Adam Grant talk, and I thought, boy, what a great way. It was a powerhouse lineup. The whole thing was amazing, as Ada and Mariah have both said. And so it was so hard to choose, and I was grateful that everything was kind of available in other ways, which was another nice virtue of the virtual format. Can you see my next slide?
Yes.
Okay. So then you and I must have been on kind of a similar trajectory, Mariah, because the anti-racism work and women, it was meaty. It was a lot to take in, and I feel like I should go back and watch it again and again. These are just a couple of the quotes that stuck with me from the presentation. It's a lifelong conscious battle, and I think what the first presenter talked a lot about what isn't racism, like inclusion isn't anti-racism, and diversity isn't anti-racism, and sort of that we all need to keep working. And I too love that idea of the vocabulary and giving children some words to work with, because they're going to be the ones who are going to have to move this, forward in the future. I'm so appreciative of the stuff that the Department of Libraries has brought to our attention and made available, and I feel like we all need to really continue to work on that. One other thing that stuck with me was enhancing diverse opportunities, and I had attended a Chittenden County Regional Development meeting, and they were talking about diversity, and you might not have your town plan available in Spanish because you think there aren't any Spanish speakers in your town, but how do you know? And how do you know that someone might not be considering moving to your town, and that would be the thing that would make them feel welcome? So I feel like it's looking for those opportunities to think about how you might apply anti-racism framework, I guess, for lack of a better word. But that was a great series of presentations. It is a lot to take in, and I too had to watch it in bits and pieces because it was taking a lot of notes. The other one that I attended was the health and well-being of staff, and I thought this, of course, was particularly pertinent to our time right now. And this blue box is some things that they recommended as sort of making sure that staff felt valued and that would contribute to well-being. And then those also I felt related to the trauma-informed care stuff that the VLA and Department of Libraries has presented for us as well. And so it was kind of nice to see that link up with something I already knew a little bit about, and then making me realize I needed to learn more. And then also this idea of organizational citizenship and why we find value and meaning and engagement working in libraries, and how to make that positive and not a competition, and also make that a source of reinforcement and encouraging well-being. So not racing to the finish line and then we're all exhausted when we get there. And then I attended the sustainability roundtable meeting they had on Saturday, and that was really interesting. I think there's so much, and I think it links up with equity and inclusion and justice work and anti-racism work. And I was thrilled to hear from Jessamine that that there will be a sustainable permanent committee on ALA now on sustainability, and that it is a core value of the American Library Association. I'd love to talk about sustainability if anyone ever wants to talk about it. I was lucky enough to be part of the discussion group that they had on Monday, and there was a lot of fabulous information from people at libraries much bigger than any library in Vermont. The Cleveland Public Library System, they had 2 speakers that talked about amazing ways they engaged kids and people in need, and all sorts of different backgrounds coming together with the idea of using the library as a place to start a garden and help feed people and just enjoy working in the dirt and being outside. We in fact decided to make wildflower seed bombs from this as our Valentine craft pickup kit for kids this month. So I'll let you know how that goes. And so what I talked about in that talk was a rain garden project that we have completed here at the library, which is part of our overall expansion project. And I was the last speaker and didn't get much of a chance to explain what the larger picture, but it was really great to be part of a sort of a cohort of people that had were so excited about some of the same kinds of things. So I feel like I'm going to keep dipping back into all of the talks and everything, and was really grateful for the chance to be there. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Margaret. And it's so great that your library and Vermont were represented in that. That just makes me so happy when I see, I know you in particular have been on the national stage a few times with different things about sustainability and other things, and other Vermont libraries as well. So that's always really terrific to learn about. I have a quick question. What's a seed bomb?
Oh, so it is so we, it's like you take a little handful or a couple tablespoons of wildflower seeds and you put them in some kind of like biodegradable clay into the shape of a heart in this case. And you let it dry, and then you can give it to someone, and then they can put it out in their garden, throw it out into their garden. It'll be nice and dry, and it kind of explodes and the seeds go everywhere, and then you plant pollinator wildflowers. So
that's awesome. What a great idea, and perfect for Valentine's Day. So one of the things that I have loved about today and previous times when we've done these lightning talks is I actually really like when two people have been to the same session and just like to hear the perspective, and that everyone brings their own perspective and background. So it's really interesting to hear that. And I definitely want to read that Adam Grant book. I thought that was an odd pairing of those two authors to even be in a pair, even when I just saw their names together. And then it was interesting that you brought up that it was a little odd. So does anyone have any comments or questions for our panelists or
I
each
had a
other?
question for Margaret about the rain garden. I wanted to learn a little bit more about that if possible.
Okay. So we are part of I could give you my 3-minute presentation. We're part of a tri-town consortium that is looking at stormwater mitigation to prevent a lot of stuff getting into Lake Champlain, and it's called Ahead of the Storm. And so when we look to put on an addition to the library, there was some concern about the fact that we'd increased our impermeable surface. And so the rain garden is a way to offset that. So actually, we no longer have a driveway on the east side of the library. If you've ever been to the Charlotte Library, it used to be that you entered on the east side of the library, and that driveway is gone, and it's now the rain garden, and that will take the runoff from the roof and filter it and absorb it, or at least it's filtered before it goes into the out into the lake. So that's the rain garden.
That's awesome.
It's great. It'll look really, you'll have to come in the spring and see it when it's all, we planted it in October, and so we don't really know what it looks like yet. But.
That's great. Thank you.
I'm going to do a pitch for the Charlotte Library in general in terms of them being a role model with sustainability. So if libraries are looking for examples of how to do things, Margaret is a great resource, and their website is a great resource because you have really done terrific things around this. So it's always good to know who to ask when you have questions about specific topics in that. And I would highly recommend Charlotte in this area, as well as many others. Jeanette, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the three of you for doing this, for being game to present. This was really interesting and exciting to hear some of the ideas. And I wanted to thank you for your eternal patience with the registration process, because ALA is having a hard time with organizations registering for people, and they're still trying to figure it out, and we're trying to figure out how to get them to do this in a way that is not a pain in the neck. So thank you for your patience. I really appreciate that, and hopefully as we keep doing this, it'll get easier for everybody.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Jeanette. I'd forgotten about that, but yeah, it's always something.
I'm still
them.
traumatized.
But yeah, but as she said, we are hoping to do more of this kind of thing, and the process hopefully will get smoother as we do it more. And thank you all so much for doing this. It's really is. I think I enjoy it almost as much as going to one, just because it's like it's filtered through like people that I know or I'm getting to know, and you know, it's filtered through a Vermont lens, which I love. And especially with ALA, which is so big, and you know, some of the, you know, libraries that are represented there are so big, like Cleveland or whatever. But I love hearing how people filter it for our purposes. Margaret, do you want to?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say that I had also gone to the ARSL one, and I really liked the way you presented those ideas. That was another session where my pencil was flying trying to get all the information down. And you know, I hope maybe we can all somehow come together to coordinate our ideas. I feel like we learn about things and we go off and do them, but it would be great to have some shared way to you know, if you try the gaming thing or the post office thing, you know, how did that go? And, you know, what did you learn from it that, as you were saying, Joy, through the Vermont lens, that might be particularly helpful if someone else wanted to try it.
Absolutely. And I can let everyone know this month I'm running a virtual categories game. So I can let everybody know how that goes. And I'm sure at some point I'll go to the post office with goodies or something else. So we can keep everybody posted on that.
Great.
Yeah, that would be great. That was reminding me that when the ARSL conference was in Burlington, we had a sort of debrief after that, and it was partly just because of scheduling, but it was sort of cool that it ended up being a few months after rather than just like a few days after like this is. And so some of the people that talked had actually, they had feedback, like they'd done a program that they learned about, and then were able to say, you know, this is what worked and what didn't work, and this is how it went over in our community. So that's something to think about, maybe to do, you know, maybe a series of follow-ups when we do this kind of thing. So
that would be great. It would be really nice to know, to share what we might have learned and learn what other folks can offer too.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tuck that away in my list. Anyone else before we wrap up? The snowplow just showed up outside my door, so I'm going to mute. But if anyone wants to say anything else.
Thanks again. That's all. It was great to be able to go.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. And Tom and Jeanette, thank you both for coming to this. And as I said, we did record this and can share it with other librarians and VitLib staff. So thank you again. And you're inspiring librarians, and I love working with you. So thank you for being that too. And we will see you another time.
True.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.